On the first night of their marriage, her husband suddenly appeared. In the original story, he was never supposed to show up, so she was completely unguarded. His behavior during the day had only confirmed her belief in that. Once the rings were exchanged, she would finally be free from the filthy Ryhoff family. The flower children brought the wedding rings. They were adorable. Killian looked impatient. She could understand. After all, this was just a political marriage, so she decided to end it quickly and reached out her hand. Killian grabbed the ring and slipped it on at lightning speed, not even touching her fingers. Childish. Before she could pick up his ring, he had already snatched it. Under her puzzled gaze, he put the ring on himself. Laughter rippled around them. His little stunt changed nothing, and she had never planned to have anything to do with him anyway. She patted the flower child's head and thanked them. Her unusual behavior caught his attention. Killian seemed to be thinking about something. But in the next moment he looked away. In her previous life she was dragged down by her family, her entire savings taken by her gambling-addicted brother. In the end, her own sister even pushed her down the stairs. After reincarnating, she still couldn't escape those same toxic relatives. She prayed to the gods, begging never to live that kind of life again. When the wedding finally ended, she tore off that revealing gown. Edith's taste was truly outrageous. The neckline so low she'd spent the entire day guarding against exposure. Just then Lisa came to visit. She recalled a scene from the original story. After the wedding, Lisa had visited Edith to apologize for Killian's rude behavior, but ended up wounding her deeply instead. Edith had lashed out, accusing Lisa of deliberately wearing a white gown at the wedding and now pulling another stunt, insisting that she was Killian's rightful wife. Honestly, from Edith's point of view, that anger was justified. But she wasn't really Edith. Lisa gently pleaded with her not to blame Killian, saying that while he might seem blunt, his heart was warmer than anyone's. Seeing the heroine up close, she had to admit, Lisa was stunning. Her golden hair shimmered, her eyes sparkled with purity, and that adorable look paired with her upright nature made her the perfect protagonist. Since she was now the villainess fighting for survival, it was even more important to win Lisa's favor. She smiled softly and said, "Please don't worry, I completely understand. This marriage was only meant to strengthen our families. It's natural for him to be displeased. I won't hold it against him." Lisa was briefly taken aback, then smiled. "You're so mature and gentle," she said warmly. She replied with a faint smile, "With such dazzling beauty, how could I compare? Miss Lisa, that gown truly suits you today." Just then the maid arrived with hot water. After Lisa left, she finally let herself relax. Now that she was the Duke's daughter-in-law, everything was taken care of for her. So what if there was no internet? No forced overtime, no sly supervisors, no gambling brother. Just operas, balls, picnics, and parties. The thought alone made her feel blissful. Suddenly, someone barged in. "The groom isn't even back yet and you're already taking a bath? What a heartless bride." The man who had never once stepped into Edith's bedroom in the original story, Killian, was actually here. Even for a husband, storming into the bride's bath on their wedding night was beyond rude. Yet he didn't seem to think so. Instead, he questioned her with a sharp look. "Why so surprised? Who else would come here besides your groom?" "No, I just thought you wouldn't come," she stammered. Killian stepped closer, a cold smirk curling his lips. "Good thing you're at least self-aware. You made it pretty obvious. You wouldn't even let me put the ring on you. That if I still couldn't see through you, then I..." He suddenly leaned down and sneered, "What is it? Were you expecting me to passionately pursue you?" Edith was speechless. How could a man look that good even while twisting the truth? Totally unfair. But she was too tired to argue, she just wanted some rest. With a sigh, she explained, "I was only stating the facts. You looked so unwilling that I assumed you wouldn't come tonight. Unless you actually planned to sleep here?" It was then that Killian realized how strange his own behavior was. He spun around and left, his pace so quick it almost looked like he was running away. Why had he even come in the first place? He couldn't explain it. The empty corridor echoed with his hurried footsteps, until someone called out, "Didn't you go to the bride's room?" His face darkened. "Yeah, I did. But she's just like me, she doesn't expect anything from tonight. Honestly, she looked half asleep in the bathtub. But just now she and I clearly don't always think so well of others," the voice cut in. "You know what kind of man Count Ryhoff is. Think carefully, are their words genuine or just sarcasm? Then, does that mean what Lady Edith said?" Seeing the hesitation, Killian pressed on, "What exactly did she say to you?" "She said my gown looked beautiful." With a small, self-deprecating smile she added, "Maybe I'm too naive, but hearing that actually made me happy." Killian's face darkened with anger. "That gown wasn't even your choice. How dare she stoop so low and make an issue out of that?" "How is that making an issue?" Lisa countered softly. "Maybe that's the only way she knows how to speak her feelings. Can you imagine how miserable she must feel inside?" "Miserable? Look at her, dressed like a peacock in luxury. How could she have the nerve to pick on your dress?" Killian recalled Edith's revealing wedding gown and scoffed inwardly. What a shallow woman. Lisa's eyes flared with anger. "How can you talk about your own wife like that?" He didn't answer. Instead he asked bitterly, "Lisa, you're cruel, but don't you have anything else to say to me? Do you even know what kind of mood I was in today?" "Lisa." A sharp voice cut through the air. "Cliff had arrived, but it's late. What are you two doing here?" Lisa immediately smiled and ran toward him, her emotions neatly tucked away. Killian stood frozen as if his soul had left his body, unable to move for a long time. The next morning, as soon as Edith woke up, she mentally erased her husband from her life. In the original story, Killian loved the heroine with unwavering devotion, even keeping himself pure for her. She had no reason to humiliate herself by getting involved. The Duke and Duchess were kind to Lisa, making it easy for her to grow closer to them. After all, who could dislike a daughter-in-law who greeted them early the morning after her wedding? Still, looking at the revealing clothes laid out for her, Edith winced. Just imagining wearing those in front of her in-laws was mortifying. Rather than dealing with the two hostile brothers, she decided it was wiser to win over the Duke and Duchess first. But those dresses with necklines plunging nearly to her stomach, wearing them would only backfire. She resolved to have every piece of clothing from the original Edith altered. Technically, last night should have been their wedding night. Should she pretend something had happened? No. Better not. Killian would probably faint from sheer rage. She couldn't help but gloat a little, remembering how the novel described the second male lead, never married and died a lifelong virgin. But then why did a man like that show up last night? Was it just to pick a fight? Still, for a main character, his looks were dangerously distracting. The maid's voice snapped her back to reality. "Your hair's done, milady." She blinked, realizing she'd been daydreaming about Killian's face. "Choi Suna, are you out of your mind? You already decided to stay away from him." The morning greeting went relatively smoothly. The Duchess turned out to be a gentlewoman, while the Duke was far more direct, asking, "So what are you good at?" Thanks to Edith's memories, she could handle basic management and accounting. She offered, "If the ducal house has its own system, I'd be happy to learn from your people." The Duke narrowed his eyes. "It seems the Count specifically trained you for this." Edith had expected some hostility, but she hadn't thought they'd accuse her of being a spy to her face. Calmly she replied, "If you don't trust me, you can teach me something else. I'll do my best to learn." Her honesty left the Duke and Duchess slightly embarrassed. The Duchess smiled to ease the tension, arranging for her to help with household duties in 2 weeks, and told her to ask for anything she needed. She then asked if someone could show her around the ducal estate. The Duchess almost said, "Killian can take you." But thinking of her son's personality, she quickly changed her mind. "I'll find someone more suitable to guide you." She had finally passed her first test, though the pressure had nearly suffocated her. "Are you all right?" A gentle voice sounded. A beautiful long-haired man appeared before her. It was Lean, the aide the Duchess had assigned to assist her. Like Anna, the maid who had helped her wash up earlier, he was another character who never appeared in the original novel. Lean carefully guided her through the ducal mansion, explaining its layout and which areas she was permitted to use. As the tour neared its end, Edith thanked him and praised his eloquence, saying he'd made her afternoon surprisingly pleasant. Lean was taken aback. Nobles never thanked those beneath them. She was clearly nothing like the rumors described. Moved by curiosity, he decided to show her a bit more. He would soon regret that decision, as they accidentally stumbled upon the young masters having tea with Lisa. His mistress was a strange one, seeing her husband drinking tea with another woman on the second day of their marriage, yet remaining utterly calm. Even he thought the young lord had gone too far. She was truly remarkable. Simply doing his duties earned him her sincere gratitude. In the cold, dim armory, she marveled with genuine fascination. While most nobles obsessed over jewelry, she admired the antique weapons and ancient artifacts. The new Edith felt nothing for her husband, so of course she wasn't angry. She merely wondered, how had the original Edith reacted in this scene? Forget it. All she wanted now was to enjoy a peaceful life in the ducal estate. Everything else was irrelevant. Just as Lean had said, the garden was breathtaking. Spring was coming and it would only grow more beautiful. Lean was completely thrown off by Edith's calmness. I suppose I'll be coming here often, she said casually. Let's go, Lean. Watching her graceful back, he nodded thoughtfully. Yes, my lady. Inside the Duke's study, Lean reported on Edith's behavior. She's very intelligent. She quickly memorized the layout of the estate and seems genuinely interested in the artwork. Anything unusual? The Duke asked. None at all. Contrary to the rumors, she's polite and refined. Only one thing stood out. On our way back, we saw the young lords having tea with Miss Lisa. The Duke's face darkened. I specifically warned him to be cautious, not to give anyone leverage. And yet, on the second day of his marriage, he's seen laughing with another woman. That alliance with Count Ryhoff was meant to restrain him, he muttered. I told him clearly, maintain appearances at least, but don't force her into anything. He knows exactly how crucial this marriage is. Lean hesitated, then added, but my lady didn't seem to care at all. She didn't argue or get angry, she just walked away as if nothing happened. The Duke fell silent, his expression tightening. So, Lady Edith isn't as simple as she seems. Meanwhile, Edith had just finished lunch. Still unaccustomed to being served, she couldn't help thanking the maids and told Anna to take a break and eat. Anna froze for a second before replying softly, thank you, my lady. Edith felt she'd handled herself fairly well before the Duke and Duchess. Now came the real challenge, how to deal with Lisa. Looking only at the ending, Lisa was undoubtedly the luckiest person in this world. Her younger brother always yielded to his elder brother. So much that he even gave up the girl he liked, ending up marrying someone he didn't love. Before the Duchess adopted her, Lisa had been a mistreated, illegitimate child, constantly bullied by her older siblings. One day, she saved the Duchess from a horse-riding accident. When the Duchess discovered the scars on her body, she paid a large sum to take Lisa away from that hellish home. Raised under the affection of the ducal family, Lisa grew up bright and kind. Like the goddess of spring. I end the novel's ending, she married the elder brother, Cliff. But now, before that ending ever arrived, Edith had married the younger one instead. Unlike Lisa, her own previous life had been nothing but misery from start to finish. She sometimes wondered, after she fell down the stairs and died, what did her brother do? Did her parents grieve for her? Probably not. To them, only the son mattered. Rather than dwelling on that, it was better to worry about herself first. Through the window, she spotted Lisa reading under a tree. Instead of wallowing in self-pity, she decided to approach her and maintain a good relationship. But just as she was about to go over, Killian appeared, asking what Lisa was reading. The girl smiled. It's a book on royal history. I never studied it before, and I don't want to embarrass the ducal family in the future. Killian's voice softened. I'll support you in whatever you want to do. But if you ever face difficulties, tell me. I'll do everything I can to help. As expected of the novel's second male lead, if it had been Cliff, he would have said, Lisa, don't worry about such things. As long as you're happy, I'll give you everything. According to every romance trope, a man like Killian could never beat the main hero. And yet, she preferred Killian's kind of dialogue. This wasn't the right time for her to greet them, and eavesdropping wasn't exactly polite. She was about to leave when she heard Lisa speak. Why did you leave Edith alone and come out here by yourself? Her husband didn't love her. His heart belonged to another woman, and he even spoke ill of her behind her back. She was nothing but a political hostage living under someone else's roof. She'd be gone sooner or later. Edith wasn't surprised. After all, that was how the story was written. How could anyone possibly fall for a so-called villainess? Meanwhile, in the Sinclair manor, a teacup shattered on the floor as the younger sister snapped. Who upset you this time? Are you seriously asking? Edith married him. Why her of all people? The man didn't seem to care. He gave a cold laugh. I suppose the Ludwig family enjoys collecting useless women. You think that's funny? Maybe you should try breaking your own teacups next time, she shot back. Seeing the strange smirk on her brother's face, she frowned. Wait, you know something, don't you? Tell me. Do you know why they got married? He asked quietly. Count Ryhoff controls the iron mines in the southern region, she replied. And what does that have to do with anything? He chuckled, his tone almost teasing. My dear sister, do you even know how many political factions there are right now? Two, of course. The Grand Duke Langston, who covets the throne, and the royal loyalists. Exactly. So imagine if the Grand Duke gained control of the raw materials for weapons, iron. That would make him dangerous. Which is why the Ludwig family, being loyal to the emperor, wants to ally with Count Ryhoff to keep him from joining Langston. That's hardly news. Patience. That's what everyone believes. But the real show is only beginning. One night, I accidentally overheard Count Ryhoff telling his daughter to seduce noble sons and extract information from them. That's when I realized, the so-called Villainess Edith was nothing but a fabrication, that she's merely a pawn, a tool in her father's political schemes. And if that secret were to spread, the entire Ryhoff family would be finished. At that moment, Edith was in high spirits. She just received an invitation from the Duchess. After several days of guidance, Lean's tour of the mansion was finally coming to an end. Thanks to you, I've completely learned my way around, she said with a smile. Lean froze, momentarily taken aback by that smile. He instinctively turned his head away to hide his reaction. When she arrived at the Duchess's parlor, she was surprised to find Lisa there as well. Are we going to be working together from now on? This is my first time doing this kind of work, so please take care of me. Lisa blushed and replied modestly, Oh, I'm just running errands for the Duchess, really. Seeing their friendly interaction, the Duchess was pleased and assigned them to organize documents together. Afterward, she called in a dressmaker to choose some new outfits for them. As expected, the Duchess preferred the dresses Lisa recommended, while Edith's choices received little enthusiasm, though in the end both dresses were purchased. Once Lisa had selected 3 lovely gowns, they realized Edith hadn't chosen anything. The Duchess decided to gift her a dress as well. But Edith, determined to change her villainous image, asked Anna to bring her old dresses and requested the tailor to modify them instead. Make them more modest and remove the excessive jewels, she said calmly. The gems could serve as her emergency funds when she left someday. She thought she could finally relax for a moment. But when she returned to her room, she found Killian waiting at the door, his face unreadable, as if he'd been standing there for quite some time. Come with me, he said curtly. Lisa invited you for afternoon tea. This part wasn't in the original novel, but she decided to see it through anyway. Following behind Killian, she figured Lisa must have been the one who asked him to fetch her. From the back, he looked like a statue carved by a master. Broad shoulders, a narrow waist. She caught herself staring, realizing it was the first time she'd been captivated by a man's physique. But she quickly reminded herself, he belonged to Lisa, she was just looking. Killian suddenly turned around. She averted her eyes, but his next words completely infuriated her. Let me warn you, watch your tongue in front of Lisa, that she's family to you. To me, she's 100 times more precious than you. So that's what he wanted to say. She laughed coldly. Is this how you hurt people? So elegantly cruel? Killian's expression turned smug. And what could possibly hurt you? I'm still human. Human. You're nothing but a viper. Killian, you truly have no manners. Then maybe I should treat Miss Lisa the same way the Duke's family treats me. Would that please you? Or are you trying to ruin my mood, to turn me into the villain you expect me to be? What a pity, she said flatly. I'm not someone who breaks that easily. But I'll remember what you said. With that, Edith brushed past him. She already knew where Lisa was having tea. She didn't need his guidance. The moment she arrived, Lisa's radiant smile greeted her. It was a 4-person battlefield, yet only Lisa seemed blissfully unaware of the tension. You seem to be fitting in quite well, Lady Edith. The first to speak was none other than the original male lead, Cliff. So soon after your wedding, don't you want to take a honeymoon trip with Killian? How convenient, she thought dryly. Trying to send me away so you can have Lisa all to yourself. She smiled politely. That won't be necessary. Killian's been quite busy lately. Killian suddenly spoke up. You should be inspecting your territory soon, shouldn't you? Winter's already over. Cliff nodded thoughtfully. You're right. Then Lisa, he said with a smile, would you like to come with me? You mentioned wanting to travel, didn't you? Seeing Lisa hesitate, Killian immediately stepped in. You don't have to take his words seriously. If you don't want to go, you don't have to. Cliff countered, but if I'm not here, won't Lisa feel uncomfortable because of you? Edith, sitting quietly at the side, couldn't help but enjoy the show. To her, it really did look that way. When the 3 of them were together, they seemed like affectionate siblings. But once one of the men left, the remaining 2 would instantly become a man and woman, and gossip about Lisa would spread like wildfire. As expected of the novel's main lead, she thought that he's quick-witted. Suddenly, Cliff turned to her, his eyes gleaming with mischief. Lady Edith, if I were to leave the mansion, leaving only Lisa, Killian and you here, how would you feel about that? Here we go again. He knew perfectly well what kind of position she was in, yet he still asked. Did he just enjoy picking on her? With a calm expression, Edith replied me. I don't care. What? Cliff stared at her in disbelief. Her smile vanished, her tone turning cold. Cliff, you know perfectly well Killian doesn't love me, yet you ask something like that. You two brothers really are the same, no manners at all. I said I don't care. Cliff's expression cracked. As the heir, inspecting your territory is your duty. If you want to go, then go. Do I look like I can stop you? In short, it's none of my business. Left speechless, Cliff didn't know how to respond, but Edith wasn't done yet. And as for inviting Miss Lisa, she continued coolly, forgive my bluntness, but that seems rather unreasonable. First of all, territorial inspections are exhausting. Second, she's not your wife. Don't you think asking her to accompany you would be burdensome? As she spoke, Edith glanced toward Lisa from the corner of her eye. And for a brief moment she saw something unsettling. Lisa's hand covered the lower half of her face, just enough for Edith to catch a glimpse of a twisted smile, nothing like her usual brightness. But in the next second the girl's expression was pure again. Cliff, must you really go inspect the territory? She asked sweetly. What was that? Did I imagine it? Forget it. The one she'd irritated wasn't Lisa. It was this nauseating male lead of a man. Later that night, Killian couldn't sleep. He stepped onto the terrace for some air. He found himself replaying Edith's words from earlier in the day, and to his own surprise he laughed. What are you doing out here alone at this hour? Did something happen? A soft, clear voice broke through the night. No, nothing, he replied, turning to see Lisa standing in the doorway. I heard your new gown arrived today. Mother was delighted to pick it out for you. Oh, the Duchess keeps buying me so many things. I honestly feel embarrassed, she said with a shy smile. Suddenly, Lisa shifted the topic, her tone gentle. For the Duchess, wouldn't it have been even more delightful to buy dresses for Edith? What do you mean by that? Killian frowned. Edith didn't buy anything that day. She only asked the dressmaker to alter the gowns she brought herself. Before their marriage, he'd heard countless rumors about her. That can't be right. The woman who never wears the same gown twice? Maybe she didn't like any of them, Lisa said casually. So she only picked for you and the Duchess. She didn't mean it like that, Killian snapped. It was just an offhand remark, yet it stuck with him. Was she trying to show off? He could still picture that gaudy, revealing wedding gown. And now she's dressing modestly, pretending to be virtuous. No wonder she looked less offensive today. She's always been that kind of vulgar woman. Just looking at her makes me. His thoughts froze as an image of Edith bathing flashed through his mind. Then it was replaced by the memory of her furious eyes when she'd confronted him for insulting her. A sharp pain shot through his head before he could think further. Do you still hate her that much? Lisa asked softly. Yes, he said through clenched teeth. That she's a venomous woman, acting all docile now, just trying to lower our guard. But even as he said it, another thought crept in. Maybe I should find out which dress shops she frequents. Not for her, of course. Just to maintain the duchy's dignity. Meanwhile, Edith stood alone in the vast, echoing gallery, surrounded by silence. It felt as though the entire place belonged to her alone. In her previous life she had never seen so many breathtaking works of art. The paintings were vivid and alive. The use of color and light was so exquisite it almost hurt to look at. She stopped before a grand, solemn depiction of war, unable to tear her gaze away. Eventually she simply sat down on the floor, staring up at it in silent awe. Quite the unconventional posture for admiring art, came a cool, familiar voice, her so-called husband. What are you doing here? She asked. Admiring my family's own collection. That's strange. Fine, she muttered, deciding not to argue. But he pushed further. I suppose the Ryhoff family never cared much for the arts. These must seem fascinating to you, huh? She sighed inwardly. Does he ever get tired of picking fights? Still, there was no need to argue. You're right, she said calmly. I'm honestly impressed. It's amazing how a single piece can carry so many emotions. It captures not only the brutality of war, but also the artist's determination to bring the tragedy to an end. Even though he achieved victory, there's no joy in his expression. War, after all, is never something worth celebrating. Killian stopped mocking her and instead began explaining the painting's origin. It was his grandfather's work, created during the war against the Aru kingdom. Seeing Edith's astonished expression, he looked surprised himself. So you really knew nothing about it? I didn't, she replied plainly. I've never heard that you liked art, he said, frowning slightly. What brought you here? People's interests change as they grow older, she answered, standing up. Then do you have a favorite artist? Sorry, I've only recently taken an interest, so I don't really know any names. Not even one, he pressed. He really does know how to make things awkward. Exactly. You said it yourself. The Ryhoff family isn't known for its artistic taste. Her open, radiant smile caught him off guard, and for the first time, something strange stirred in Killian's chest. Then her eyes caught something on the wall. Wait a second. That little boy. Killian's tone instantly grew flustered. That was me. When I was a kid, one of my father's friends was a painter. He made me pose for him. I didn't have a choice, I swear. She chuckled softly. She hadn't even asked. What are you staring at so closely? Oh, nothing. I asked what you're looking at. His voice rose, clearly uneasy. Nothing really, just a bit, miniature. With that, Edith turned and walked away. Killian froze, his face turning bright red. What are you talking about? It's just a painting. It's not the real me. Oh, what else would it be? No noble would actually pose naked for a portrait, right? Why, yeah, of course. You're absolutely right. Edith's nonchalant tone finally pushed Killian over the edge. Clearly, you're not someone who can even talk about art with me, he snapped. Inside, she was laughing so hard she nearly lost composure. Even the coldest iceberg needs a little humor now and then. Otherwise, how boring would life be? Still, she turned back toward the painting and murmured he actually looked kind of cute as a kid. Meanwhile, Lean had been assigned to secretly keep watch over her. But the word monitor didn't sit right with him. The so-called notorious Villainess was now diligent, polite, and surprisingly humble. Though he kept a respectful distance, he found she wasn't unpleasant at all. In fact, if she ever ran into trouble, he might even help her. As for Edith, she was beginning to truly enjoy her new life. Some still held their prejudices, but those around her treated her with courtesy. Life in the ducal estate felt peaceful and free, and she could finally savor the elegance of a noblewoman's days. But what she looked forward to most was passing the training grounds every day, watching the novel's male leads sparring side by side. Back when she'd read the novel, she'd always preferred the second male lead. Now that he was her husband, seeing him in person only confirmed it. He suited her taste even better than the book described. Compared to the typical fantasy protagonist, all brawn and bulk, she much preferred Killian's build. Solid, strong, but elegantly defined. All right, she told herself, time to get to work. Today's tour had gone perfectly. But then she froze. So he can smile like that. It was warm and soft like sunlight breaking through the morning fog. So different from his usual cold, cutting demeanor. But of course that smile wasn't meant for her. A wave of emotion washed over Edith. In her 20-plus years as Choi Suna, she had never thought of herself as someone who cared about appearances. Only now did she realize, it wasn't that she wasn't a face person, she had simply never seen someone truly handsome before. She shook her head. Focus, Edith. Time to work. Her task today was to organize the family's weapon and armor inventory, classified as first-level confidential. Maybe this meant they were starting to trust her. Just then someone approached. Edith, what's this? I organized the Duchess's documents into a table format, she explained. Lisa frowned in confusion. Edith opened her mouth to clarify, remembering that this era probably didn't even have the concept of spreadsheets. She carefully explained it. But Lisa shook her head. With all due respect, I don't think this is very good. The Duchess noticed their exchange and approached. Is there a problem here? Before Edith could answer, Lisa jumped in. Edith was just asking for my advice. It seems you've helped Edith a lot. Edith suddenly looked up. Clearly she was the one explaining, yet it felt just like in her past life, when people used her over and over again. She tightened her grip on the documents and lifted her gaze calmly. Madam, she said evenly, if you don't mind, may I ask for your opinion instead? Edith patiently explained the advantages of her table and how to use it in detail to the Duchess. As she wrapped up, she noticed Lisa watching her with a blank expression, the kind of look that said, you just slapped me in the face, didn't you? Oh no, I've lost my mind. She thought that I forgot I'm just the side character here. She was about to defuse it by saying it was Lisa's idea. But the Duchess spoke first, visibly delighted. My goodness, Edith, this is brilliant. How did you come up with this? It's wonderful. I'll have to use this method for organizing my own files from now on. Edith's heart pounded. It was the first time since she'd transmigrated that anyone had praised her so sincerely. Yes, mother, she said, smiling despite herself. In the warmth of that moment, she didn't notice Lisa's dark, brooding gaze fixed on her. The next morning, the newlyweds were still living apart. When her husband suddenly appeared at dawn, she blinked in surprise. You're up early. Something wrong? He said nothing. She teased lightly, don't tell me you came because you missed me. Killian brushed past her and entered the room. So what? You want me to say my piece and then leave right away? What if I told you to stay a bit longer? Would you agree? You really never lose an argument, do you? Of course not. I don't even know what losing means. Killian frowned. You're not wrong. The real reason he'd come so early was because he'd seen the table she'd made. His mother had shown it to him the previous night. She was undeniably clever, and his mother rarely praised anyone. The table looked efficient, organized, maybe too professional. He couldn't help but wonder, was Edith secretly collecting data to leak family information? But to his surprise, his mother had scolded him instead. Even if this is a political marriage, she'd said sharply, how is Edith any different from you? She left the home she was deeply attached to and came here all alone. Can't you treat her a little better? But all he felt was irritation. Just then, Lean appeared to report to the Duchess. Killian turned to Lisa for confirmation, and even she was praising Edith. You know, she's well educated. Unlike me, who learned nothing at the Sinclair household, she learns so much faster than I do. Yet those words that sounded like compliments were full of hidden suspicion. Lisa could assist the Duchess because she'd received 4 years of proper education in the ducal estate. But Edith being skilled enough to make even Lisa jealous meant she wasn't just naturally smart. She might have been trained. And her understanding of art last time, there's no way that came from someone as ignorant as the rumors described. Edith looked at her husband's back. Every time she saw him, she couldn't help teasing him a little. After all, she knew the tragic second male lead too well. But why was he picking a fight so early in the morning? Was it because she upset Lisa yesterday? Whatever, maybe she should just say something random to ease the tension. Lovely weather today, isn't it? Though it's still early and the breeze is a little cold. The curve of her exposed neck and the faint rose scent drifting in the air made Killian's heart skip, and his head ache at the same time. He slammed the window shut, leaned in closer, and his sudden movement left her frozen in place. Then his first words nearly sent her blood pressure soaring. What's wrong? Are the shops mother picked too refined to match your taste? What do you mean by that? He chuckled softly beside her ear. You, who never wears the same gown twice, refused to order a new one. Quite a unique way to make a statement. She had only refused to change her gown to shed her villainous image. Was that really something worth hating her for? Killian continued on his own. If there's a boutique you prefer, tell me. I'll have them brought here. Edith suddenly pushed him away. Killian, you really don't know me at all. If I didn't like that store, I'd just pick another one. Do you really think I'd fuss over something so trivial? You're just using it as an excuse to justify hating me. Killian froze. What did you just say? Ever since the wedding, I've understood it clearly. You want to put all the blame on me. That way you can feel righteous and guilt-free. You pretend to be the victim. It's pathetic and disgusting. But he only frowned as if not understanding. So this is how you feel. After threatening our family just to secure your position? Threatening you, she echoed. Otherwise what? You're saying you have nothing to do with the Ryhoff family? In that instant, Edith realized that to everyone here she wasn't a person, just a Ryhoff. A wave of helplessness washed over her and she lowered her gaze. When she looked up again, the mix of pain and defiance on her face made Killian's heart skip. Killian, you don't understand me at all. She had loved the second male lead in the novel precisely because he suffered, so she had always endured his cruelty, but this endless cycle of accusation and contempt, she couldn't anymore. The contempt and disappointment in her eyes struck him like lightning, and for the first time Killian realized, maybe he had truly misjudged her. But his pride wouldn't let him admit it. He just muttered, focus on assisting mother, and stop doing things that draw suspicion before turning to leave. The heavy sound of the door closing echoed. Edith slowly crouched down, wrapping her arms around herself. Really? Why did I only realize it now? She thought bitterly. Tio think I could actually live peacefully here, I should just start planning how to leave. Outside the door, Killian clutched his head, splitting pain tearing through him. What did I even do? Why did we start arguing in the first place? All he could recall was that faint rose scent, and those alluring red lips. She was right. From the very beginning he had only seen her as the daughter of Raihoff. Everything he knew about her came from prejudice. The pain grew worse, making it impossible to think. His headaches were coming more and more often lately. Good morning, Killian. Lisa's radiant smile greeted him. You don't look well. The violet fragrance surrounding her seemed to ease his pain a little. You don't have a fever. So it really only happens when I'm around Edith, huh? It's nothing. Maybe I just saw an annoying woman first thing this morning. Why do you always talk about Edith that way? Killian tightened his fist, forcing himself not to think about her. She was just a spy sent by the Raihoffs. Nothing more, that he had no reason to care. In her previous life, whenever Edith felt down, she would fill a tumbler with iced Americano and wander aimlessly through the streets. Today she planned to do the same. Staying cooped up would only make things worse, and since her transmigration she hadn't truly seen the world outside. As soon as she stepped out, she felt her mood begin to lift. Miss, where are you going? Anna asked curiously. Well, why don't you suggest somewhere? I've never gone to the busy streets alone before. Anna looked a bit nervous but answered sincerely. For clothes and jewelry, I'd recommend Mary Street. For galleries, opera houses, or other cultural places, I'd suggest Sadel Street. You're quite knowledgeable, huh? What about jewelers? I'm looking for a place that buys gemstones at a high price. Anna immediately listed 3 shops. Edith had long suspected that Anna was basically the author's convenient encyclopedia character. And maybe she was right. Then let's go where you suggested. I'm going to sell the gems I removed from my old dresses. The price, 5.1 million, wasn't bad at all. She deposited the money into a nearby bank and was surprised to learn she could open an account under a false name. With funds secured, the next step was figuring out her escape route and destination. She still didn't understand this world well, and with Anna being a servant of the ducal family, she couldn't act too openly. Anna would definitely report her movements. What she'd accomplished today was already enough. She smiled faintly and said, "Thanks to you, Anna, I got everything done easily." When she returned to the mansion, the Duchess suddenly called for her. The jewel merchant had arrived. According to the timeline, this was exactly the part in the novel where Edith was humiliated by the jeweler. Every season, the jewel merchant would visit the ducal estate, and as always, everyone's attention went to Lisa. Seeing Edith left out, Lisa felt guilty. She picked out a necklace for her. But of course, the villainess didn't appreciate it. "You're giving me this piece of junk. Are you mocking me?" The flustered little angel quickly explained, "Of course not. I just thought it would suit you." "Really? Then I'll take everything except the one you picked." But her confidence was short-lived. Cliff, the male lead, bought all the jewelry for Lisa, leaving only that small necklace for her. It was one of those satisfying moments in the original novel. But now she was the one sitting awkwardly across from them. She reached out for the blue necklace in front of her. Then the Duchess spoke. "That blue one. Doesn't it match Lisa's eyes perfectly?" Edith awkwardly pulled her hand back, watching the warm atmosphere on the other side of the table as if she weren't even there. Normally she might have chimed in with a polite comment, but today, she didn't feel like it. What made it worse was seeing Killian there. His presence made everything more uncomfortable. No wonder the original Edith had felt so left out in this scene. She averted her gaze and focused on the jewelry instead. "Wait a second, Edith," Lisa suddenly said, "I think this one suits you. The gem's small but the color is lovely. Is that a ruby?" The jeweler immediately began his pitch. "Excellent eye, Madam. That's our highest grade ruby." The Duchess smiled. "Edith, why don't you try it on?" To her surprise, another hand reached for the necklace at the same time, Killian's. He picked it up, his expression dark. "Turn around," he said coldly. He actually put the necklace on her. But what was with that grim expression? When she looked up, she noticed the Duchess smiling warmly across the table. So he's just doing this for his mother's sake. Fine then, she'd play along. "Well, Killian, how does it look?" Edith's smile made Killian blush. He could no longer keep up his cold act and turned his head awkwardly. "Not bad. Send me the bill for that necklace." Cliff chuckled with a teasing tone. "Killian, your first gift to your bride, huh? What a considerate husband. I'll take care of the rest." The Duchess suddenly spoke. Cliff, if you're buying all those for Lisa, then what about Edith? It's fine, mother, that I don't really have anything else I want. This necklace is enough. In truth, she would have preferred a larger gemstone. Something that could be sold later if she needed to escape. But this one she decided she'd never sell. The day before, she had received her husband's gift and successfully avoided the humiliation scene from the novel. Everything seemed to be heading in a better direction. Even when her father's letter arrived demanding she steal documents from the ducal estate, she stayed calm and optimistic, thinking of how to handle it. The fact that her father knew she was working on document organization meant there had to be a Ryhoff spy inside the mansion. Well, she'd escaped a tiger's den only to fall into a wolf's lair. Might as well make it interesting that if she could drive her scumbag father mad, that'd be even better. In her reply, she lavishly praised the Ludwig family's power and added, "The Duke did nothing wrong. After all, ennoblement is the Emperor's decision, isn't it? Why would anyone hate the Ludwig family for that? His Majesty is still alive, and the royal princess stands by his side. Duke Langston has no chance of claiming the throne." In her letter, she urged her father not to rebel. Better to ally with the Ludwigs instead. She wrote down everything she had always been afraid to say before Dias for the ducal records. She didn't reveal a single word. She thought the matter would end there, but the very next day the Duke summoned her. "Edith, I'll ask you one last time. Did you leak any of the documents?" "I really didn't." "Would you stake your father's honor on that?" "Of course. I swear on both my name and my life." But the Duke delivered his verdict coldly. "Your actions will bring disgrace upon both you and your father." "What are you talking about?" she demanded. The Duke gestured and Leon stepped forward with a folder in his hands. "This is the set of files you organized earlier." Indeed, it was the fake document Leon had prepared himself. "Your father purchased only the items listed in these records. That alone proves you leaked the information." Edith responded calmly. "Sorry, I don't know what you mean. If you had me organize fake documents, there must be another reason. But whatever it is, I only completed the tasks assigned to me and did not leak any documents. Even now you can play dumb. Impressive. If the information was only given to you, then why did it reach the Ryhoff household? You say it was given only to me, but this file wasn't seen only by Leon and me. The household staff who shared the office as well as the Duchess and Miss Lisa have all seen it." The Duke laughed in furious contempt. "Are you trying to pin the blame on my family, Edith Ryhoff?" "Called Ryhoff again. Come to think of it, wasn't it the same in the original? After the wedding no one called her Edith Ludwig. Everyone called her Ryhoff." She stared at the Duke and replied, "If I am Edith Ryhoff, then what is Miss Lisa's name? Is she Lisa Ludwig?" This made the Duke furious. "You really have no filter." "I'll say it again. The Duchess and Lisa know I organized the files. If anything happens, I'll be the first suspect. Do you think I don't know that? If you truly didn't trust me, you shouldn't have asked me to work here in the first place. But then again, you needed a handle to accuse me of leaking documents so you could suppress the Ryhoff family, right?" Her calm yet precise argument left the Duke and his two sons momentarily stunned. She was truly exhausted. She hadn't leaked a single document. So why did the files end up in Ryhoff's hands? She considered Leon a friend. Even though his deception hurt her, she didn't believe he was the kind to frame her. And Lisa had no reason to do such a thing either. Could it be a spy planted by Ryhoff? No. That wouldn't make sense. That if they already had a spy capable of this, why bother using her, the most obvious target, to gather information? In the original story, Edith had indeed done this, but she hadn't. Was this a warning? A sign that no matter how she tried to change things, she could never escape the novel's original fate and ending? Was she doomed to keep falling into the abyss until the day she died by Killian's hand? Killian suddenly looked at her and froze at what he saw. The woman who had always been strong and unyielding was suddenly crying. "Didn't I already say it? I'm willing to stake my life and honor. If you still don't believe me, then kill me." Hearing her speak with such despair, Killian panicked. "What are you saying? Stop it!" he shouted, nearly losing his mind as he tried to silence her. Cliff, afraid his brother would make things worse, quickly turned to their father. "Let's investigate this properly first," he suggested, then added, "but until it's done, the suspect should be confined." After a moment of silence, the Duke agreed. "Very well. Confine her." He gave Edith a cold glance. "If you're truly innocent, then pray for the truth to reveal itself." The outcome was exactly as in the original story. The Duke ordered the guards to escort her away. But before they could, Killian suddenly intervened. Wait, come with me. He grabbed Edith's arm and pulled her away at once, slamming the door behind them in fury without a single word of farewell. As soon as they returned to the room, a heated argument broke out. Are you insane? I wish I were. Do you think I'm joking? Do you know what Axel Ludwig's battlefield nickname is? The Headless Guillotine. No warning. Edith turned and sneered. What a grand nickname. Whether it's our army, the enemy, or prisoners, my father deals with them mercilessly by the law. How can you say something like let him kill you? What if he actually did? Edith cut him off. So, now you're upset because I said let him kill me? You don't like that line? His heart was racing wildly at Edith's words kill me, though he didn't know why he felt that way. He could only answer in a formulaic way. What I mean is, if one does wrong they must pay the price. Otherwise the truth will come to light. Will it really be that way? Just like how you never believed me, now I can't believe you either. And no matter what the outcome is, you'll still see me as the culprit. It was you who gave me the fake documents. And it was you who told me Ryhoff had purchased the items listed in them. You're the ones investigating and judging everything, while I can only sit here and wait for your verdict. Her words stung deeply. He clenched his fists and said, I'll conduct a fair investigation. I swear on my honor. I'll find out the truth and make sure you're not treated unfairly. I'll also keep you informed of the progress. Edith looked at him coldly. Suit yourself. But I'm curious. You say you'll be fair, but if both Lisa and I become suspects, will you still have that confidence? They say that when two women fall for the same man, jealousy turns them against each other. Yet the imperial princess who once loved the male lead, Cliff, suddenly let go of her obsession when she met Lisa, and turned all that affection toward the novel's heroine instead. Katrin was someone even the emperor couldn't control. Free-spirited, reckless, and willful beyond reason. She was the only noblewoman in the empire who kept her hair short. She found gowns troublesome and preferred wearing riding pants every day. Though the novel described her as arrogant and unruly, she had always been one of Edith's favorite characters before she transmigrated. Perhaps because Edith envied her freedom. Katrin barely greeted Lisa before teasing her. You haven't come for a month. Has your love for me cooled already? Watching the poor girl stammer in embarrassment. Cliff immediately stepped in front of Lisa to protect her. Katrin, stop bullying her. Can't you see how uncomfortable she is? The man she once loved was now shielding another woman before her eyes. Yet Edith felt nothing, just smiled faintly. I was only joking. Where's Killian? Lisa replied with a gentle smile. He's married now. He can't just leave Edith behind to accompany me, can he? Cliff sneered. Marriage? That doesn't count as one. What they have is nothing but a farce. An act staged with those Ryhoff bastards. Katrin waved her hand impatiently. Don't talk about that. Edith. I only remember her as an idiot. What did she even look like again? Never mind, I don't care. As Cliff prepared to meet the emperor, Katrin took the chance to pull Lisa away. I don't want to hear about your plots and politics. Talk to your brother about that nonsense instead. Cliff watched them leave and suddenly thought of Killian. Lately, Killian had been suffering from constant headaches and a strangely volatile temper. One day, Cliff merely mentioned going to the palace. And Killian, furious, stopped him on the spot, assuming he was going to report something against Edith. In truth, Cliff had only intended to tell the emperor that the investigation was ongoing. Still, seeing Killian stand up to their father for the first time was oddly amusing. On a hospital bed, a little girl sobbed quietly. Does it hurt? She turned to see the child from the next bed. I'm sorry, did I wake you up? Oh, I cry a lot too. The child sat up and asked softly, are you crying because you're afraid to die? I'm not afraid, the girl whispered. I just wish I could die sooner. Seeing the other girl's shocked face, she explained softly, my parents think my illness is troublesome. My brother's bone marrow matches mine, but he's afraid of pain. So he told me I should just die sooner. That's why I sometimes think, maybe dying wouldn't be so bad. The listening child gave a faint, bitter smile. Life really doesn't go our way, huh? But I still envy you. At least you have family with matching bone marrow. I just want to grow up, turn 20, grow my hair long, tie it up nicely, put on pretty makeup, walk down a lively street and watch people live their lives. That was Edith's dream. It always appeared whenever she felt exhausted. She still remembered the child's tearful words clearly. As long as there's even a chance to live, no matter how painful the treatment is, I'll endure it. But when Edith returned from her bone marrow transplant, the child was gone. That became her reason never to give up on life, because as long as she was alive, anything was still possible. Being confined wasn't really punishment for Edith. After all, she'd been a homebody in her past life. Quiet, idle days like this actually felt like luxury. At least they did, before he showed up. So what brings you here today? No notice and you picked mealtime of all times? Killian stared at her intently for a moment before answering, because this is the only time I'm free. Right, you really are a busy man. Silence fell again. Edith cursed him inwardly. Was he not going to tell her why he came? Aside from that face, everything about his personality was a mess. She suddenly remembered a viral post from her past life. Marry someone handsome, because even if you argue, one look at his face and you'll calm down. She used to doubt that saying, but now maybe it was true. Even if she didn't want to eat with him, she refused to let his mood ruin her meal. Killian, meanwhile, studied her quietly. Seeing her indifferent look, he suddenly began reporting on the investigation and added pointedly, Lisa is included in the inquiry. I won't go easy on her just because she's Lisa, so you don't have to worry. The confinement didn't seem to bother her at all, which puzzled Killian. You can still eat like that? Why wouldn't I? First, I'm innocent. Second, this soup is delicious. Since I didn't do anything wrong, why should I let it ruin my appetite? Unfortunately, the soup was gone, though some bread remained. With a sigh, Killian slid his untouched bowl toward her. She was the one under suspicion, yet she looked utterly unconcerned. Though Edith didn't want to see him, she still felt oddly empty once Killian left. In her past life, she used to love folding paper crafts, but in this fantasy world, such a hobby was impossible. From Anna, she learned that noble ladies here preferred embroidery and painting, while the more energetic ones chose horse riding or archery. She had never even held a needle, so embroidery was out. Painting, she had no talent. Horse riding, she still valued her life. Isn't there something more creative? Anna suddenly remembered, recently it's become fashionable to make clothes for dolls. It's good practice for sewing too. Edith's eyes lit up. She quickly offered Anna some money. Please buy the materials for me. Consider it a small thank you. But Anna refused. No need, miss. Serving you is my duty. Why? Did someone tell you not to take anything from me? Anna's sudden panic made Edith even more certain. This girl was definitely sent to watch her. Though both she and Leon were technically in watcher positions, they were among the few in the mansion who truly treated her with respect. She couldn't help but comfort Anna. I didn't mean to scare you. Honestly, if someone thinks they can bribe you with that little money, they're really underestimating you. So just take it as a small token from me. I'll be happy if you do. Anna's expression softened at last. She accepted it and thanked her sincerely. A few days later, Anna brought back a full set of doll-making tools and even detailed blueprints. She'd been acting warmer toward Edith lately, though her face still wore that cool, professional calm. Making the tiny clothes was harder than expected, but since it was just a hobby, she didn't mind. In the end, the finished doll actually looked quite nice. A masterpiece deserves a kiss, she joked to herself. Maybe I should even try embroidery next. Suddenly, Killian burst through the door, startling her so much that she pricked her finger with the needle. Have you forgotten how to knock? She snapped furiously. Killian came in looking grim. During the investigation, we found a document with your handwriting on it. Father's about to summon you. How are you going to explain this? I'll just tell him that you went to great lengths to frame me, she replied calmly. Are you joking? Or do you really think Duke Ludovic is someone to laugh at? His tone was sharp enough to cut. She remained composed only because, in the original story, the Duke eventually spared Edith. But the way Killian was acting now was nothing like what she remembered. Apologies for interrupting, Leon's voice came from the doorway. The Duke requests your presence. Edith froze for a moment, a strange thought surfacing. Did Leon also think she was guilty? Killian stopped frowning. Isn't the evidence a bad thing for you? Come on, Leon. The Duke produced the files. This is the weapons list from Count Ryhoff's transaction. Your handwriting is on it. Someone has forged my handwriting. The Duke didn't believe her. The only one who stands to lose here is your father. If you confess honestly, I will not punish you. Your Grace, this isn't about punishment, she replied. I already told you. This concerns my reputation. You can compare it with the records I organized. My tables aren't this crude. Someone has imitated my hand, or perhaps you drew it this way on purpose. Why would I do that? If I wanted to hide something, I wouldn't use my own notes, and this file differs noticeably from my notes. She then asked Leon to bring her diary. From examining it, she found that although the forged table was rough, the forger must have some understanding of how the table works. If it were the Duchess or someone like Lisa who learned from her, they could reproduce it. But the Ludwigs had no need to go that far. There were many simple ways to frame her. This felt like an exact replay of the novel's incident. Edith flipped open her diary. The way the letter Q is written here is completely different from the evidence. This is a carefully forged document. Please catch that sly rat. The Duke began to accept her argument. At that moment, Lisa was summoned in as well. The Duke asked Lisa who else knows how to use the table. Lisa first mentioned the Duchess, then Cliff and Killian, insisting there was no one else. She added that she didn't really understand how the table worked. The Duke confirmed, so aside from Edith, only our family members knew about it. That's right. Edith stared at Lisa in shock. She had clearly taught her how to use it before. That night, she went alone to the second male lead's room. She softly kissed him while he slept. She waited for him to wake up, to look at her with disgust and throw her out, just like in the original novel. Then it would all be over. She wouldn't have to struggle with her heart anymore. But Killian did wake up, grabbing her roughly. What, have your desires gotten so wild that you can't even keep up the act anymore? She backed away, panicking. It's not like that. But he yanked her close and pinned her down. Edith's eyes widened. This wasn't how the story was supposed to go. She had always known their marriage was forced and that he resented her, yet the way he looked at her sometimes, it felt like he cared. Show me that seductive side of yours, little fox from the Ryhoff family. Maybe then I'll actually feel something for you. Wait, if it were Lisa instead, would you still feel the same? Killian froze. Then he realized she meant Lisa. Though theirs was only a political marriage in name, he hadn't expected her to have absolutely no expectations of him. That's not a question you should ask me. You're the one confident enough to think you could seduce me. Why else sneak into my room at midnight? With that, he kissed her. For a moment they felt like lovers. You're always stealing glances at me. Might as well look all you want now. Then he noticed her diary. It had fallen open. She wanted to explain, but the new, unfamiliar warmth on her skin stopped her words. Killian didn't understand what was happening to him. Somehow this shy, flustered Edith looked adorable. He must have lost his mind. When Edith woke up, daylight was already flooding the room. It had really happened. Killian ordered the maid to prepare bathwater. While she was still dazed, he picked her up, blanket and all. She tried to protest that she could walk herself, but he carried her straight into the bathroom. If the water's too hot, tell me that it's just right. On our wedding night, you also bathed alone. Seems you really like soaking in the tub. She blushed in embarrassment, stammering, why yes. What was going on? Even if he'd spent the night with her out of impulse, by morning he should have regretted it. In the original novel, Killian never wavered no matter how Edith tried to tempt him. Yet now he had kissed her first. Was this pity? Or maybe he thought Lisa had fallen for Cliff, leaving him hopeless, so he settled for her instead. Unbelievable. The man now looked at her gently, even apologizing and telling her to rest well. Compared to his cold attitude at the wedding, he seemed like a completely different person. Damn it, she couldn't keep overthinking this. She needed to focus and think clearly. After what happened last night, she once again entered that strange system space. A cold mechanical voice echoed. You have met the Phase 1 exception condition. Due to the anomaly, the author's authority has been reduced. She immediately asked, what is the Phase 1 exception condition? After a brief silence, the system actually answered her this time. When she asked what the Phase 1 condition actually was, the system replied, following Edith's path of failure in the original story. That meant, if she kept avoiding the original plot, she would become the 14th Edith to die. The thought made her shiver. Any transmigrator who knew the story's plot would, without a doubt, try everything to avoid the original fate. But that wasn't the only strange part. The system also added, since you met the Phase 1 condition, the author's authority has been reduced. That implied there was indeed a governing force in this world, some kind of entity that exercised control. But what exactly was it? The information she had was too vague, nowhere near enough. And what part of that authority had been reduced? From the very beginning, how much control did the author actually hold? Over the plot, the characters, the flow of the story, or everything? Still, she now understood one thing for certain. The original story could be changed. In Killian's eyes, Lisa was no longer the only one. He might just end up becoming her ally. She would never give up so easily again. Instead of staying passive, she'd take the initiative, starting with the Duchess, the one who seemed to hold genuine affection for her. As expected, the Duchess's first words were filled with concern for her health. "I'm sorry for worrying you," Edith replied gently. "I'm fine now." The Duke and Duchess had recently visited the royal palace, most likely to discuss the conflict between Grand Duke Langston and the Righoff family. "The Duke hasn't been himself lately," the Duchess sighed. "He blames himself for pressuring you too much. After years of war, his tone can be harsher than intended." Harsher? Edith thought bitterly. "He's never harsh with Lisa." Still, she kept her composure and asked the Duchess to tell the Duke she was doing fine. The Duchess visibly relaxed at that. "So what will you do next?" the Duchess asked. "If you're uncomfortable, you don't have to continue assisting me." Edith knew too well. If she quit now, it would only confirm the rumors that she had betrayed the Duke's household. She couldn't afford to back down. "If you don't mind, Mother," she said carefully, "I'd like to keep working for the Duke's family. But if things continue as before, I may be framed again. Could you perhaps assign someone you personally trust to oversee my work?" "You mean you want a work environment free of misunderstanding?" The Duchess smiled. "As it happens, Lean mentioned recently that he needed an assistant." Although Lean had been involved in the leaked document incident, he wasn't truly part of House Ludovic, even if he had prepared that fake report. Still, along with Anna, he was one of the few people in the mansion who treated her without prejudice. With that thought, she readily agreed. What kind of expression did he have last time again? But when she actually saw Lean, she realized there was no point recalling, because he never had any expression to begin with. "You're here," he said flatly. "What should I start with?" she asked. "Please sort these receipts by year," he replied. "Why are the receipts in such a mess?" "The person who worked here before you left them like that," Lean explained honestly. "I made him upset, so he threw several years' worth of receipts all over the floor before running away." Edith stared, astonished. "These are House Ludovic's records." "Of course," he said calmly. "He didn't escape punishment afterward." Then Lean looked at her seriously. "My lady, don't expect me to treat you kindly. If you're hoping for warmth, you'll probably regret it." "Is that so?" She smiled faintly. "Then I'll just get to work." It had been a long time since she'd felt such calm. The soft scratch of her pen and the rustle of papers blended with the warm afternoon light. A rare, peaceful harmony. A light cough broke her focus. The workday was already over. She hadn't even noticed how quickly time had passed. She hurriedly organized the sorted receipts, added labels, and handed them to Lean. "Thank you for your help." "It's you who worked hard, my lady," he replied evenly. In her previous life, she had always despised people who constantly preached about feelings and empathy. Someone like her, too proud to lower her head, was often branded as cold and heartless, robbed of credit, and completely denied her worth. With that thought, she said to Lean, "Lean, I don't need you to be kind to me. I just need you to do two things. First, be competent. Second, be fair. From what I've seen, you already meet both standards, so please take care of things tomorrow as well." Lean watched Edith leave, standing motionless for a while before lowering his head, lost in thought. Not long after, Cliff approached him. "Sorry to call you out when you're busy. I heard you've been assigned to keep watch on Edith." Cliff got straight to the point. "Tell me, what kind of person do you think she is?" His heart had already begun leaning toward his sister and Law. So when he heard his elder brother was investigating Edith, he felt a sharp discomfort. Even Lean, usually calm and detached, looked visibly unsettled. "How can you call it surveillance?" Lean's voice turned cold. "Regardless of what others say, Lady Edith is helping the Duchess with her duties. You shouldn't use such words, Lord Cliff." His anger faded, replaced by a strange realization. Why did he even care so much about how others spoke of her? "It's true I've been instructed to verify the documents she's organized, just to prevent any mistakes," Lean said evenly. "But to be precise, Lady Edith is assisting me with my work." Cliff pressed further. Have you noticed anything suspicious about her?" "It's too early to tell," Lean replied. "Most noble ladies would find this kind of work tedious, yet she hasn't complained once. She's exceptional in many ways. Above all, she has remarkable perseverance." Killian noticed that Lean's expression had completely changed. Cliff sneered. "Looks like that woman's gone to great lengths to please you. Fine, I'll call for you again in a few days." After Lean left, Lisa suddenly spoke up. Oh my, it's the first time I've ever heard Lean praise someone like that. Cliff smirked with malice. To win Lean over in just one day. Edith has got some real tricks. Don't tell me she's already seduced him? If that's true, what a disgrace to House Ludovic. Then again, it's not entirely a bad match. Lean's still unmarried, though losing someone like him would be a waste. Seeing Killian's expression stiffen, Lisa teased, don't tell me, you're starting to care about that woman? Killian quickly looked away, denying it aloud, but the knot in his chest only tightened. Cliff's tone grew nastier. Right, you're cold even to Lisa. How could you possibly like a woman like Edith? Though he was supposed to leave for his trip, he couldn't bring himself to go. Edith's beauty was different from Lisa's. Sensual yet captivating, the thought of her alone with Lean in the same room made him unbearably restless. The door was unlocked. After knocking twice, it creaked open on its own. Her familiar rose scent drifted out from inside. No one here, he muttered, his eyes catching on a pair of ornaments on the table. His heartbeat quickened. Could it be? Before he could take a closer look, the ornaments were abruptly pushed aside. Edith stood nervously in front of him. It's just a little hobby of mine, but I'm still not very good at it. It's not ready to show anyone yet. Then she suddenly realized, wait, hold on. You can't just walk in here like that. She quickly called Anna to put the puppets away. They sat down awkwardly, silence hanging in the air. After a long pause, Killian forced himself to speak. So, how have you been? The moment he said it, embarrassment hit him, especially when he realized he was sitting on her bed. Thanks to the Duchess, I've been able to help the deputy steward lately. His name's Lean. Do you know him? The words slipped out before she could stop herself. Of course he knew. Everyone did. Lean was one of the Duke's most trusted aides. To her surprise, Killian didn't get annoyed. Instead, he patiently began explaining Lean's background. His father had served the Duke for years before handing his territory to him. Now, Lean had taken over his father's position. Killian's eyes softened with memory. When I was a kid, my brother and I trained with swords every day. Lean, though he preferred books to blades. He would sometimes invite Lean to spar with him. Lean never refused, but he never initiated either. They were like friends, but not quite. That detail stunned Edith. Lean wasn't even a character in the original novel, yet here he was, someone who'd spent his childhood alongside the main cast. It proved that this world was far more intricate and alive than the book had ever described. Still, had he really come here just to tell her this? You look like you're wondering why I came, Killian said quietly. Tomorrow I'll be leaving to inspect the Lycan territory. I'll be away for quite some time. He was actually inviting her. So, would you like to come with me? He made the offer because he couldn't bear to part from her, but she only laughed it off as a joke and politely declined. He must have lost his mind, knowing full well she didn't care for him, yet still clinging so close. Killian left the room, his mood sinking. Later that day, Edith finished her work and stretched her sore arms. She noticed a gaze fixed on her. Lean, why are you looking at me like that? She asked lightly. It's nothing, the Duchess asked you to see her once you're done. After Edith left, Lean walked over to her desk and began leafing through the papers she'd organized. To his surprise, everything was perfectly sorted. She'd finished all the work far faster than he expected. Meanwhile, the Duchess had called for Edith because a charity bazaar was scheduled for next month. She wanted both Lise and Edith to participate. Such events were a way for noble women to display virtue and to show off their talents, so everyone was eager to take part. My skills are really average. I'd hate to trouble you, Edith said hesitantly. Of course not. Don't be so modest, the Duchess replied kindly. But as a modern person, Edith had never been good at embroidery. She had tried a few times before, but with little success. Just as she was about to decline, she noticed both the Duchess and Lise watching her expectantly. If Miss Edith joins too, Lise said softly, I think I'll have the courage to participate. Yes, Edith, don't feel pressured, the Duchess added warmly. Great. Now every way to refuse was blocked. She sighed inwardly. After all, she was just a supporting character. It was only natural for her embroidery to be worse than the heroine's. But she hadn't expected Lise to be that skilled. Even the most critical noble ladies couldn't stop praising her work. Odd. In the original novel, Lise was terrible at embroidery. Lise turned toward her with a bright smile. Miss Edith, what do you plan to make? I think, maybe a handkerchief, Edith replied. As Edith flipped through the design book trying to choose colors, Lise leaned closer again. How about this one? A pink body with yellow wings, it'd look really cute. But Edith had already chosen her palette. Just as she was wondering how to decline politely, someone nearby commented, "Oh, that pattern looks just like the one my niece made a few years ago. It'll be adorable once it's done." Another lady chimed in, "Yes, I remember. How's Lady Larissa these days? She was just a child back then, wasn't she?" So they're implying this design is childish. Edith thought, forcing a smile. How immature. "Thank you for the suggestion, Lise," she said calmly. "But I chose this one because it reminded me of Killian." The Duchess leaned in, amused. "Killian's eye color is beautiful." Edith smiled. "That's only because his eyes are the same color as the Duke's, isn't it?" "You really are something, my dear," the Duchess chuckled. The noblewoman who had mocked her earlier quickly forced a laugh to smooth things over. Newlyweds really are so sweet. Meanwhile, Killian had arrived at the Lycan territory, the place that would one day be their home. Though far from the capital, it had great potential for growth. The castle had been maintained over the years. Aside from the rather plain interior, it was in better shape than he expected. Still, he thought to himself, Edith grew up surrounded by luxury in the Rigoff household, that she'd never like a place this simple. He decided that once he returned, he'd find the finest craftsman to redecorate it. He asked his father, "How cold does it get here in winter?" "A bit colder than the capital," the Duke replied. "The temperature isn't the issue, the heavy snow is. But the territory's never been cut off because of it." Seeing that his son seemed rather accepting, the Duke smiled faintly. "You seem satisfied with the place." "Yes," Killian answered, "there are a lot of young people here. If we build a road across the mountains, this territory could one day become a major commercial hub of the kingdom." But that wasn't what the Duke wanted to ask. "What I mean is, are you truly content with just this?" For the first time, Killian's usually impassive expression wavered. "And if I said I wasn't," he asked quietly, "would that earn me more land, or a higher title? Or would you give me my brother's place, make me your heir?" His voice dropped into a bitter laugh. "At this point, what's the point of asking?" Even though he'd done everything his father ever asked of him, he'd still been denied the only thing he truly wanted. In the end, all of it, his obedience, his ambition, felt like meaningless illusions. He looked at his father, his tone calm to the point of indifference. What could I possibly be dissatisfied with? That look, so steady, so hollow, made the Duke's chest tighten with unease. "There's no need to worry," Killian added with a gentle smile, slipping back into the role of the obedient son. "That if you grant me the title, I'll begin managing the territory immediately." He then discussed the land's future with his father, as if nothing had ever been said. Not long after, the charity bazaar began. Lise grabbed Edith's hand excitedly. "Look, I think our works are displayed over there." Edith followed her gaze and spotted the handkerchief she'd embroidered. Anna had even told her it looked good. A kind little lie, surely. The ribbons on the table signified items already reserved. Cliff will probably buy Lise's piece, Edith thought. In that case, she murmured with a sly smile, "Let's give him a chance." She gently pulled Lise toward another booth and, just as expected, Cliff immediately walked over to where they'd been. But they hadn't gone far before a sharp voice rang out. "A low-born bastard like her dares show up here," sneered a noblewoman nearby. Her daughter pretended to scold her mother. "Mother, mind your words, the Duke and Duchess adore Miss Lise," only to add mockingly, "maybe they keep her around as a pet." No matter the world, Edith thought coldly, there are always people shameless enough to gossip in public. She couldn't hold back anymore. "Lise," she said aloud, her tone dripping with disdain, "I truly don't understand today's so-called high society." Lifting her chin, she sneered, "A bunch of country hicks daring to lecture others. Honestly, which backwater did they crawl out of?" The noblewoman's expression twisted. "Miss Edith Rigoff, if you don't even recognize the Countess of Brynn, perhaps you should reconsider your own upbringing and social awareness. You're the ones who should reflect." Edith shot back coldly, "It's been quite some time since I changed my name, hasn't it? Maybe weigh your own worth before you judge others." The woman's face darkened. "I've long heard the Duke's family took in a most unlikable daughter-in-law," she sneered. "Didn't expect you'd be this vulgar. Even the bastard girl has more grace than you." "Oh really?" Edith arched a brow. "Then why are you still forced to bow to the vulgar woman you despise? If this little comment of yours reaches young Master Cliff's ears, you do know what'll happen, don't you?" Her opponent fell silent, flushed with fury, but too humiliated to speak. Pathetic, Edith thought, and she dares to bark at me. Lise quickly stepped between them. "Edith, I'm sorry that they're friends of Countess Sinclair. They only said that because of me. Don't worry about it, Edith replied lightly. I've got nothing to be ashamed of. Let them talk, it won't change the truth. Still, she noticed that several people had begun treating Lise kindly. The story had reached what, in the original novel, was Phase 4, a point where opinions split sharply into love or hate. Sitting alone, Edith felt the boredom creeping in. She hadn't expected Killian to return so soon. The moment he appeared, Lise rushed toward him with bright eyes. Edith froze. Should she go greet him? If she didn't, it'd look cold. But if she did, would he ignore her? Then, Killian's gaze found her. Without hesitation, he walked straight toward her. Her heart skipped. You're back already, she managed, almost blurting out, I missed you. Killian just stared at her in silence, his eyes unreadable. Why are you looking at me like that? She asked quietly, her voice barely steady. He suddenly smiled, his tone gentle enough to make her heart flutter. Edith, I'm back. Nothing happened while I was away, right? What could possibly happen? I was just a little bored. Bored? Don't tell me it's because I wasn't here. You sure think highly of yourself, she shot back with a smirk. His teasing eased the tension between them. Actually, I've been practicing embroidery lately. I figured as much. Hey, what's that supposed to mean? Before she could argue further, a sudden urge hit her. Great, she thought, that's what I get for drinking so much tea earlier. She excused herself and hurried toward the restroom. But the moment she stepped out, a hand seized her wrist from around the corner. She froze, then looked up into a face both familiar and furious. Her brother, does so cold already? Forgotten my voice that quickly, he growled. You wrote to us, told us to give up and stop targeting the Ludwig family. But then you sent fake documents right after. Were you being watched or have you betrayed us? No, she replied firmly. The letter was my true intention. And those forged documents, you'd better ask where you really got them because I never sent them. Meanwhile, Killian was still waiting back at the bazaar. She'd said, I'll be right back, but half the day had already passed. Could it be that everyone fawning over Lise upset her? He wondered, scanning the crowd, anxiety tightening in his chest. But she just defended Lise. Killian knew Edith didn't care about others' opinions, but could she really ignore all that gossip? He accidentally knocked over his juice and stood up. A girl chatting with Lise greeted him. Lord Killian, you're here too. A woman beside her smiled as well. He didn't stop. Sorry, I spilled my drink. I'll go wash my hands. He reached the restroom and saw Edith. She was talking to a man. He couldn't hear them, but it looked unpleasant. The man soon left. Edith looked tired. What were they talking about? Turning the corner, she saw him. You took a while. I was just looking around the estate. She spoke calmly but wasn't telling the truth. You didn't come here for me, did you? Would that make you happy? Someone cared that I left. Shouldn't that make me happy? But her expression didn't match her words. When they returned, the charity sale had ended. Edith's embroidered handkerchief was already sold, and she finally felt relieved. Killian reached into his pocket, remembering what his mother had said. Do you know what color the bird on Edith's embroidery is? It's the color of your eyes, she said. She stitched it thinking of you, and told me not to tell you. Isn't that sweet? Killian's feelings were mixed. He was happy, but another voice told him she might have done it only to keep the items from going unsold and embarrassing the Ludwig family. The next morning, her brother suddenly showed up, claiming he was worried about his sister, and brought along Edith's personal maid. Edith told me she's been mistreated here. She's not even allowed to attend a friend's tea party. What nonsense are you talking about? Edith shot back. I refused because I didn't want to cause trouble. Look at my poor sister, her brother sneered, still forced to watch her words in this house. Fool, you think hiding in the Ludwig estate means I can't reach you? Then unexpectedly, Killian spoke up. Then let the maid stay. Since she's been by your side since childhood, the Count's family will feel at ease if she remains here, right? Edith froze. Why was Killian saying this? She wanted to refuse, but no sound came out. Her throat felt sealed shut. A wave of dizziness hit her. She stumbled forward and the maid quickly caught her. Are you all right, my lady? She said gently. Then close to her ear, her tone turned vicious. Long time no see, my lady. Watching the maid lead Edith away, Killian turned his head in frustration, unease growing in his chest. Back in the bedroom, the maid dropped her mask completely. Edith nearly forgot. This was exactly how it began in the original story. Whether it was leaking documents or poisoning others, much of it was done by the maid, Sophia. Since childhood she had abused and beaten Edith. She was one of the novel's key supporting villains. So, someone forged your handwriting to leak the data. Sophia sneered. Well, there's no rush. She yanked Edith's hair hard. You wretched girl. Left home for a while and now pretend you don't know me. Do you really think you're the master now? The lady she once trained now glared back at her. I end the past. One slap would make Edith tremble. But now, even beaten, her eyes were sharp and defiant. Sophia smirked. So what? Who would have guessed that the proud Lady Edith ain't even the real daughter of House Righoff? Her ribs felt like they had cracked. The pain was sharper than she imagined. Sophia's blows landed on spots that would leave no visible marks. Sophia looked down at her. So you really intend to betray your family? How is that betrayal? I'm just asking. Why are you so sure Duke Langston will win? The original novel never detailed the politics, but in reality the Emperor's power was solid, and House Ludwig's military strength was overwhelming. Langston had no real chance. Oh, listen to you, Sophia sneered. Soon the Emperor and the Ludwigs will both fall. Even if Langston takes the throne. Ever heard of a hound after the hunt? Titles and glory are just my father's delusions. That remark enraged Sophia. Watch your filthy mouth. You just need to sit there, look pretty and act like a doll. Once you lose your worth. She didn't finish the sentence. Count Righoff had once ordered her. If Edith lost her value, she was to be killed immediately. Since Sophia entered the Duke's estate, Edith had lost all freedom, beaten, starved and confined. Sophia tried to break her, but no amount of pain or threat worked. If you want food, prove your worth. Huh? You really think I'm livestock, don't you? Edith sneered. Even a beaten dog stops obeying after enough pain. Whenever Edith showed the slightest resistance towards Sophia, it always led to harsher beatings. The only moments of relief she had were the hours spent working under Lean. She was so hungry that she absent-mindedly finished all the pastries on the table. Feeling guilty, she looked at Lean. He simply said calmly, It's fine that I don't like sweets. Do you want some more? He really did look like someone who could endure anything. And today, to her surprise, Lean looked especially handsome. But her small refuge didn't last long. Lean had to leave for a week on business. Ever since she'd been confined, she'd been eating alone. No one had noticed her condition. And Killian hadn't come to see her for a long time. Why had he become so distant? Had he believed what Sean said? She couldn't let her thoughts spiral. Before Sophia returned, she needed to step outside for some air. As soon as she left the mansion, she ran into Lisa, who invited her to have tea together. Sophia returned just in time to see them. The sight reminded her of what young Master Sean had asked her. Find out what Lisa liked and don't tell father. Jealousy rose in Sophia's heart. She had never dreamed of marrying the young master, but in her eyes, Lisa was just a maid's illegitimate daughter. How could she ever deserve him? Back in her room, Edith was so hungry she felt dizzy. Even when she managed to eat something outside, Sophia would force her to vomit afterward. Thinking about how she had zoned out staring at food earlier, and how Killian gave her that helpless look, she felt utterly humiliated. Then Sophia returned holding a plate of cake. Lady Lisa asked me to bring this to you that if you keep starving, people might start to suspect something. Eat it before I change my mind. Starving beyond reason, Edith didn't think twice. She began eating, not noticing the strange smile curling on Sophia's lips. Moments later, she vomited blood, her body collapsing from the pain. The maid laughed eerily as Edith's vision faded. She recalled the novel. In the original, she never poisoned the heroine. She had been framed as if she poisoned herself. No matter what she did, the story still followed its doomed script. The noise around her woke her up. Sophia was accusing Lisa, claiming the cake she sent was poisoned. Lisa, panicked, tried to defend herself, just like the scene from the book. Fighting the pain, Edith forced herself to speak and stop Sophia, only then noticing both Killian and Cliff were present. Sophia pretended to be worried, rushing to her side, but her eyes warned Edith to stay silent. Edith steadied her voice. I'm sorry, Lisa. Because of me, you're being misunderstood. I just overate a little. What are you saying? You were vomiting blood just now. Maybe, I'm just allergic to peaches, she said weakly, forcing a faint smile. Cliff couldn't stand the farce any longer. This is ridiculous. Search this room thoroughly. Edith didn't expect Sophia to be stupid enough to leave the poison in the room. Almost like labeling the bottle poison from me. Cliff sneered. Edith was at a loss for words. That thing isn't yours. Do you mean someone hid it in your cabinet? Lisa held Cliff back. Enough. Edith is still unwell. Cliff refused to let it go. My beloved is being framed. How could I stop? Wait until the investigation is over. I'm eager to hear how you'll defend yourself. Seeing Sophia's anxious face, Edith sneered. How stupid. You think you're clever but you achieve nothing. Sophia snapped, slapping her. If you dare look down on me again, I'll really end you. The infirmary tested the drug. Not lethal poison, but it causes gastrointestinal bleeding. Cliff left as soon as he got the result. Killian looked to the doctor. She looks in pain. Any pain relief that can help? The doctor answered. There's an analgesic in the medicine I prescribed for your lady, but it won't help. She's been starving for days. Even a mildly toxic substance can be fatal for her. The doctor believed Edith had been starving herself to lose weight, but Killian knew she was never someone to refuse good food. She had lost a lot of weight lately, which felt strange. Would she really poison herself knowing how weak she was? A disturbing thought crossed his mind. If she did it just to get attention, then she was truly terrifying. Edith had once been the center of high society, but now everyone ignored her. Maybe she didn't mean to frame Lisa. Maybe she just wanted to be noticed. Looking down at her, he muttered, I can only watch you suffer and do nothing. You're in so much pain. Why would you still take poison? Edith, who had just woken up, heard his last words. So he really thinks I did it. She turned her back to him, not wanting to see his face. You're awake, Edith. Please leave. She had thought she no longer expected anything from him, yet her chest still ached at his words. The next day, it was unexpectedly Lisa who defended her. Facing Cliff's investigation, Lisa spoke up. If she really wanted to frame me, why would she wake up saying it was indigestion? You all call her the culprit, but I've always seen Edith as my friend. She really was the angelic heroine from the novel. Edith had once doubted Lisa, but seeing her now, it was impossible to keep suspecting her. Wanting to express her gratitude, she asked the Duchess for advice and picked a small gift for Lisa. A week later, after regaining her strength, Edith was about to return to work with Lean. But suddenly Killian burst into the room, his face pale. Edith Ludwig, what the hell have you done? He stormed closer, demanding, tell me, what did you do? Edith stared back, confused. You'll have to tell me what happened first. Lisa was poisoned while embroidering with the thread you gave her. That's impossible. The merchant sealed it up and I sent it to her right away. In the novel, Lisa's poisoning did happen. But it was Sophia who had smeared the needle with poison. To avoid that fate, Edith had chosen a different gift and handed it over immediately. That's why I'm asking, did you do anything to it? Killian, I know you have to suspect me, but think carefully. After what happened with the cake, everyone's eyes are on me. Do you really think I'd be stupid enough to act now? Killian's thoughts were in chaos. He wanted to believe her, yet the fact remained, Lisa had been poisoned by her gift. You probably think I'm accusing you unfairly, but how many times has this happened already? Can't you give me one reason not to doubt you? His suspicion gave her a glimpse of hope. I don't want to be doubted anymore, so why don't you just assign someone to monitor me? Sophia tried to stop her. Edith raised her voice, cutting her off. This was her only chance to break free from Sophia's control. Seeing her determination, Killian agreed to let Anna stay on as her personal maid. She almost thought she'd failed. If that happened, Sophia would have beaten her half to death again. She refused to live like that anymore. After arranging the maids, Killian updated her. The embroidery merchant had been arrested and was no longer a suspect. Other than her, the only ones who could have touched the thread were Lisa's maid, Cliff, Killian himself, and the Duchess. Killian, maybe this sounds like an excuse, but I really think someone's using me as a scapegoat to hurt Lisa. They can take both of us down at once. That's killing two birds with one stone. For example, the Sinclairs. Lisa's half-siblings have tried to harm her before. Can you be sure there aren't Sinclair spies in this mansion? You say that like the Rickhoff family never planted anyone here. Don't be a hypocrite. We all play the same game. Honestly, I've even wondered, are you the one smearing me? We would never do something so despicable. Killian shouted. I swear on my honor. Our family would never stoop that low. Edith smiled faintly. You feel wronged after just being suspected once. I've gambled my life and still no one believes me. I'm not blaming you. I've thought about it carefully. I don't seem important enough for anyone to bother framing. Your reasoning makes sense, Killian admitted. But I'm not sure if my brother or father would agree. Edith was surprised. He had doubted her just moments ago. I get what you mean. Honestly, I care more about what Lisa thinks. She didn't want Lisa to misunderstand her after how kindly she'd defended her before. You don't hate Lisa? Killian asked in surprise. Why would I? Because everyone praises her and ignores me. She smiled slightly. Killian, you've got me wrong that I'm a detached. Do you really think I'd be jealous over something so trivial? She never thought she'd say something like that in her life, when suddenly Killian pulled her into his arms. Before she could react, his lips pressed against hers. It was confusing and unexpected but not unwelcome. Still, why was he doing this? When they finally pulled apart, she noticed his face was flushed, his expression startled and awkward. Sorry. I'm sorry, he stammered, and before she could answer, he turned and bolted out of the room. A few days later, Anna brought news. The Duke had only ordered her confinement and said the matter would not be mentioned again. Edith was surprised. Lisa was bedridden and the male lead wasn't the type to just let things go. As she expected, Cliff held a grudge. With Killian blocking him, he couldn't touch Edith directly, but there were others he could target. Killian argued with his brother. Why do you lose your mind every time it's about Lisa? If Edith really wanted to poison her, why would she do it with a gift she personally sent? And ever since the cake incident, she's been under constant watch. She and her maid never had the chance to get poison. The Duke agreed. After an internal investigation, the facts supported Killian's reasoning. In the end, he ruled that unless new evidence appeared, the matter would remain closed. Cliff grew restless. With his brother shielding his wife, he couldn't touch Edith directly, but he had no intention of letting it go. Inside the carriage, Edith sat across from the Duke, her whole body stiff with unease. The princess had summoned her through the Duchess. The Duchess thought it was simple curiosity, but Edith knew she was in trouble. In the original story, Princess Catherine was portrayed as a dangerous eccentric, wild and untamed like a runaway horse, yet fiercely independent and free. Edith actually liked that character. Catherine's first love was Cliff. Her jealousy toward Lisa was eventually melted by the heroine's kindness. With a heavy expression, Edith failed to notice the Duke's watchful gaze. As expected, the princess attacked first. Before being addressed, Edith wasn't even allowed to speak. So you're the daughter of the Rieghoff family. Your Highness, I am now Edith Ludovic. Let's call it that then. I didn't offer you tea. Please forgive me. After all, there are rumors you enjoy poisoning people, so this was the trap Cliff had set for her. I've never poisoned anyone. But yes, I admit I've made some foolish choices in the past. If those rumors led to misunderstandings, I can't blame you. So you do understand. This marriage only happened because your family threw a tantrum. I end this dirty game. The only one who truly suffered was Killian. That was my family's decision. I've long left them, but I still feel guilty about it. Ah, the most eloquent tongue in high society. You talk beautifully. I must look ridiculous, don't I? Not at all, Your Highness. I have the utmost respect for you. In the original later chapters, she woke up. After the rebellion was quelled, Catherine, persuaded by the heroine, put her dress back on and returned to society as an ordinary noblewoman. But to her, the Catherine who didn't care about others' opinions, who stuck to what she believed was right and pursued freedom, was far more attractive. As you said, Your Highness, I only hope you won't be swayed by other nobles' gossip, and will judge me fairly with your own eyes. Only after leaving did she realize she'd spoken everything from her heart. She really ought to fix that habit of losing judgment at the sight of a beauty. On the way to Lion's office, she was grabbed and dragged roughly by Sophia. Sophia threatened, "This is your last chance. Steal the duchy's tax records. If you betray our lord again, I'll kill you with my own hands." To Edith's surprise, Sophia believed it was her who poisoned Lisa. "This is your last chance. My master has permitted me to get rid of you. Are you not afraid of being exposed if you kill me?" Sophia sneered. "Don't worry, I'll make everyone believe it was the Ludovic's doing. And don't even think about exposing me. You think I don't know why you've never dared?" She couldn't expose her because she was bound by the original story. But Sophia revealed the crueler truth. Being abandoned is only a matter of time. Once Killian learns you're nothing but a discarded card, do you think he'll let you live? Edith fell silent. She'd been avoiding that truth all along. Even without the story's restraints, could she really tell Killian everything? "You know how terrifying my master is. You've seen what happens to those who defy him. If you bring me the tax documents quietly, maybe I'll put in a good word for you." Edith sneered. "Want me to tell you a prophecy?" No matter how hard you struggle, the Ludovics will wipe you all out, including that brother you claim to love so much. A knock sounded. Lion looked up. It was Edith. Sorry to bother you, I think I'm a bit late. Because of the poisoning incident, she thought Lion would despise her, yet he treated her as usual. Though it was just work, that calm felt like a luxury she hadn't had in a long time. She handed the sorted documents to Lion. He suddenly spoke. I've noticed it for a while. You work with such focus and incredible efficiency. Edith looked embarrassed. It's only because the work is simple. No, if everyone worked like you, I wouldn't have to fire so many people. You've helped me a lot. Even simple tasks, you handle them perfectly. Your reports are detailed and neat. Before he could finish, the papers got wet. Lion looked up in surprise. Edith's cheeks were wet with tears. She seemed to realize only then that she was crying. Flustered, she covered her face. I'm sorry, I lost control for a moment. Please give me a second. Lion stood and gently caught her wrist. You don't have to suppress your feelings. If you keep forcing yourself, one day they'll explode. Killian hadn't expected that when he came to check on Edith, he would see this scene. What were they talking about? Lion's gesture confirmed what Edith suspected. Characters who didn't exist in the original story weren't bound by its plot. If she built good relationships with these nameless extras, maybe she could change her fate. But it wasn't that easy. Their kindness alone couldn't save her from the situation she was trapped in. She remembered Sophia's words. Being abandoned only takes a moment. Killian must have gone to visit Lisa again today, right? It was just a passing thought, but then Killian showed up in the middle of the night looking hurt and restless. Your work's been done for a while. Why haven't you come to see me? Did I disappoint you last time? The Killian she'd heard of believed Edith was a spoiled, arrogant villainess. A seductive woman who lured men into her traps. So when he realized he desired her, he blamed her for it. He told himself she must have bewitched him. Like a fool, he looked forward to seeing her every day, but since that night she'd never once come to him. Killian had to admit it, he'd lost. Compared to being away from Edith, his pride meant nothing. She had clearly drawn him in, yet she kept denying that night, insisting it was just his misunderstanding. So Killian drew the wrong conclusion. Was it because I didn't satisfy you that night? Is that why you've set your sights on another prey? Edith was dumbfounded. What are you even talking about? What prey? Don't you realize how irresistible you are to young men? I heard the young master of the Kalins was toyed with by you, Killian said. But honestly, I get it. Who could resist a woman that beautiful and tempting? No matter where he went, rumors about Edith always followed. Edith was confused. In the original story, the original her had obeyed the Rickhoff family's orders but had never crossed any real moral line. Why were there so many rumors about her now? Killian pulled her close, his voice low. You only have to crook your finger and men would line up to chase you. Then he froze, his eyes wide with disbelief. Killian Ludovic realized he knew nothing about Edith at all. She wasn't the foolish woman the rumors described, nor the scheming vixen people claimed she was. She loved admiring art, enjoyed the chef's cooking at the Duke's mansion and, like an innocent fool, found happiness in the smallest things. But when faced with danger, she was calm and unshaken. She countered every insult with logic and dignity, proving her innocence over and over. So much that even her stubborn father began to doubt his own convictions. Killian finally noticed the strange pattern. Every time something happened, everyone seemed to target her on purpose. When did the Ludovic family's investigations become so full of holes? Edith had never asked him for help. It made Killian feel like a fool. After that night, he was nothing more than the man she'd left behind. The more he thought about it, the less sense it made. Yet the rumors about Edith kept echoing in his mind. People always believe the voice that matches their prejudice. Only now did he realize how terribly wrong he'd been. The mix of old and new scars on her body showed they had appeared over time. She was hurt this badly, yet not a single servant had reported it. Killian tried to keep his tone calm to hide the anger boiling inside. Who did this to you? Edith said nothing. If it had been someone from the Ludovic household, she wouldn't have kept silent. Her silence told him everything. And his fury only grew. I'm sorry, he said quietly, for losing my temper earlier. Edith hugged the blanket tighter. It's okay, I didn't really hate it, even if you wanted to. I'm not the kind of man, Killian interrupted, who'd touch a woman covered in bruises. After he left, Edith finally drifted into a shallow sleep. When she woke again, her back felt sticky. It was ointment. Only Sophia and Killian knew about her injuries, so it must have been him returning while she slept, to tend her wounds. And she hadn't even noticed. How utterly ridiculous. "Excuse me," Killian said as he entered the room with a few attendants. He threw Sophia down in front of Edith. "A filthy maid claiming she was protecting her lady? You dare treat her like this? Ridiculous. A servant who can't even fulfill her duty has no right to stay by her side." "I've served the lady since childhood," Sophia protested. "Since childhood?" Killian's brow furrowed. "Of course that I was trained as her personal maid from an early age." "Since you understand your duty so well," Killian said coldly, "explain this. Your lady's body is covered in bruises. You didn't report it and you didn't even treat her. No matter how I see it, the only one who could have caused those wounds is you." Sophia protested weakly. "But the lady never told me she was hurt. Just small scratches maybe." "Small wounds." Killian's tone turned lethal. "Do you want me to give you a few of those small wounds myself?" Sophia went pale, completely frozen in fear. "Edith is my lawful wife," Killian continued. "What were you thinking? That if the bruises are hidden under her clothes they don't count? And I'm curious, how important are you to the Rickhoff family? They actually begged me to return you unharmed." Edith was stunned that it wasn't even noon and Killian had already contacted the Rickhoff family. Turning to her, he said firmly, "Edith, regarding the maid, I'm not taking your advice this time." Edith froze. She could tell he had already sensed that there was something she couldn't reveal. Killian asked Anna to look after Edith, saying he would personally escort Sophia to the carriage sent by the Rickhoff family. The Duke's second son escorting a maid himself. It was practically a public declaration that the maid was guilty. For the first time, Anna spoke with emotion. "My lady, may I look at your body?" Edith didn't refuse. When Anna saw the bruises, her usually cold face finally changed. Her voice trembled. "My lady, you're hurt like this, why didn't you say anything?" The worry and tenderness in Anna's eyes strangely soothed Edith's heart. It felt unexpectedly good to be cared for. As the story's second male lead, Killian became the first variable to break the script. The puppet had gained self-awareness and, under the system's restriction, fell in love with the villainess he was meant to destroy. Kuroki couldn't understand why a character he created would suddenly refuse to obey. The system urged him to set up the Phase 2 condition. Others had cleared the first phase before, but this was the first time it made him feel genuinely afraid. Most players who transmigrated into Edith behaved the same, avoiding the villainous route and choosing the path of kindness. Once they entered the Duke's mansion, they inevitably became drawn to the two brothers, and the plot stayed on course. Everything remained stable, until the file leak incident. Then those players would panic and collapse. Only the 13th Edith was different. She stayed calm and proved her innocence. Not only that, she tried to win over supporting characters who weren't fully controlled by the script, as if she knew exactly who the system couldn't restrain. Kuroki thought she'd keep that defiant spirit forever, but unexpectedly she gave up. That moment fulfilled the first phase condition, weakening the system's control, and Killian finally began to awaken as himself. But Kuroki wasn't worried. A faint smirk crossed his lips. The game had only just begun, and this stage's condition wouldn't be so easy to complete. Meanwhile, Killian and Cliff were in a fierce argument. Cliff demanded to know why he had sent the maid back. "Without evidence, forcing an investigation will only make us look guilty," Killian replied coolly. "Besides, I never trusted that maid from the start." The truth, however, was that Killian had discovered during the investigation. Edith wasn't the real daughter of the Rickhoff family, that he couldn't risk exposing that secret. If her identity were revealed, their marriage would be annulled. That was why Edith had always remained silent. A clever woman like her, beaten so badly yet saying nothing. No, wait, she had asked him to send another maid to watch her. Was I being used again? Killian thought grimly. "Killian, what are you thinking?" Cliff's voice cut through sharply. Lise stared at him with tears in her eyes. Then that voice echoed again in his mind. "How could you ignore my illness, because of Edith?" Killian froze. He lowered his gaze, his voice soft. "I just have too much on my mind." Lise smiled gently. "It's okay, Cliff. Don't blame Killian. I'm actually glad he's thinking about Edith. When I was sick, you all came to see me. Edith must feel so lonely. Killian, I hope you can comfort her. Maybe have tea with her, take a walk. Be warmer to her just like you are with me. Killian didn't need her to say it, he already intended to do so. On the first day he invited Edith for tea, but she turned him down that he thought he'd been too forward. The next day he invited her to dinner in advance, yet she refused again. On the third day he asked her to take a walk in the garden. She declined once more, saying she preferred to stay inside and read. That's when Killian realized she was avoiding him. Had he done something wrong again? He reflected on it. Maybe his earlier mistakes and pressure had pushed her too far, so he decided to spend more time with her, to understand the real Edith. But it turned out to be harder than he thought. Maybe he was just overthinking it. Maybe he should just do what he did last time, barge right in.